You just entered the bear crawling nation on the No Agenda Stream.
This is R. Mordant McFall, and welcome to the other side of live. Welcome everyone to the #1 late night moving on up motivational show, otherwise known as the other side of live. Tonight's working title for this episode is Trust. And tonight we are alive from Roseville, Minnesota, in my good friends Chad and Kay's house, because they have the bomb ditty. That's what I said, bomb ditty, although I stumbled over it. Stuff that I can use for the internet. And in the Bear Crawling Nation in Monticello, Georgia, blah, blah, blah. Charles McFall. Say hello, Charles, and I'll go back to being a professional.
Trust me, I'm a professional.
By the way.
Hello, all. And, you know,
Dude,
last week...
Not funny.
Last week was all little things.
I've just lost Charles. I'm laughing right now. Apparently, I've just lost Charles. So... Wow, I think I did. I wonder if I've lost everybody. That would be just special. So, working title is Trust, and we have a few things that we're going to talk about with that. It's going to be a great show as my computer is beginning to lock up on me. But before we do that, we're going to talk about what we talked about last week, which was It's the Little Things. And that's where Charles and I were sitting down and just chatting about all the things that get in our way as far as everything else that's happening in our life. As we're moving towards chasing and catching our dreams, as we're doing a live show and your computer locks up and you can't check any of your billions and billions of set list notes that you have, and everything is saying not responding, and you can't hear your partner. Oh, there he is. I heard something in the distance. Are you there, Charles? Yep. Well, if you're there, I can't hear you at all. So I am indeed moving right along to the very, very next thing. You know that we edit these things out for the podcast. Some of them we keep in because it's just a lot of fun to be able to do that. Charles, if you're out there in the world anywhere, let me know. And apparently we're still connected, so there is that. Maybe you should call the conference number, but I think everything just went away there too. So, tonight's episode, Trust. Trust that everything is going to work out for you. Trust that no matter what is going on, you're going to be able to figure everything out. And that your buddies are still with you, even though you can't hear them at all. And I'm clicking all the things that I need to click to make sure that I haven't silenced them. So we had some things lined up for you to talk to you about last week's episode, and apparently we're not going to do that right now. We're just going to move forward with the call, and I believe that I did lose Charles completely. So first thing what you want to do is when we're talking about trust, there's three different types of trust. There's trusting others, there's trusting yourselves, and there's trusting the process. You know, and as far as trusting yourself, you know, as you are creating a life for yourself, to be successful, you need to trust yourself and your instincts. This is a process of learning that you are right, even when you are wrong. And right when you are wrong, what I mean by that is your mistakes have a purpose. So even when things are not going your way, even when things are crumbling around you, there is a reason for that, and you're in the right place at the right time for your life. So you have to trust yourself in there. You have to trust yourself. Begin to trust your instincts, especially as you are moving forward to chasing and catching your dreams. Isn't that right, Charles?
That's right.
Oh, you are there.
I don't know how Skype just kicked me off. It locked up, and you were talking about your computer was locking up, and I could hear you just fine, and then it just disconnected. In fact, the conference room says we're not even connected there. I don't know what happened.
We're not connected there. It went away as far as everything. That thing that I was looking for that I had, it's gone now. I made it go bye.
Well, I can read it. I don't even know where you are in the stories now. I'm so lost.
Oh, it's okay. This is entertainment value for everybody listening to our show. I think they tune in just this reason.
And obviously not that I would ever do it on purpose, but I think the universe is proving. What did I tell you like 2 weeks ago that had the word trust in it?
That I need to trust you and I need to be in the Bear's Den and not anywhere else.
Okay, I say that every week. No, this was for you, not for me. I said, because we were having, a couple weeks ago we had some difficulties, and it threw you off of the show, and you were.
Oh, trust you. Trust yourself. You got this.
Trust yourself. You got this. And I hope when I listen back to the 2 hours I just missed of awesome content that you were trusting yourself.
I was trusting myself. I'm not. Obviously, I'm not as used to it yet as I should be because I'm flopping and twitching a little bit. My question is to you right now is: we have lost the conference call. Do we want to call that back or just let it slide?
Let's ask the chat room. If the chat room wants us to connect in live and pull up the conference number so that they can call in, we will. If they're just like, let's see what happens first, then we'll see what happens first.
All right. Well, hello to everybody in the chat room. As I was trying to figure out where everything was at that moment, I was not able to, if you were telling me, oh, we are here, yop, 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 I could not hear you. I could not read you at all. So now I see you. I see you, as the Na'vi have said. I see you. Wow. I'm sorry. I apologize to everybody. Let's back up a little bit and begin talking about last week, the little things. You had a couple things you wanted to go over with that.
I actually had a really cool roll-in, too, that we missed because Skype went all blah, blah, blah on us. Because I was actually covering you when you threw it to me because you were introing. Anyway, it was good. Boom! Email newsletter.
Well, we have our pre-show. We have our pre-show chat and talking about what we're going to do this show. And one of the things that Charles wanted to talk about was the newsletter that had just come out from House of the Bear. And I was like, oh, well, we can put it here in the very beginning of the show. But, make it kind of graceful. Don't, make it like we're sliding into it, not like it's planned. So it's not like you're, boom, newsletter. He goes, that's exactly what I'm going to do.
And it is way better the first time because, we can't rehearse that kind of crap because it just does not flow. It's really awkward.
So anyways, the newsletter, I promise you, trust us, we will get to the topic of the show eventually.
Well, you did this amazing video, and it does play into trust, but I'm going to get into that because we talked about all the little things last week, all the little things, and, I had my last show on Thursday, my last Bear Crawling live show. Bear Crawling had to go away. His purpose was done. His path in my life was complete, and even if I were to stay in that time slot and run a show, it would not be that same show. And so it had to go away. We've talked about this, about making choices, and I'm going to read an email about that. And it was not nearly as big as I thought it was going to be. And I don't mean people didn't turn out. They did. Lots of great phone calls from people, and it was a good time. Now, what I mean was I thought, and I think everybody else thought going into it was just going to be this big, sad, moment in life. I mean, 5 years, 300 shows. It's kind of a big deal to choose to shut that down. And in the end, it really was about moving forward and celebrating the next step. And it was a good time. You were there. You and Kim were on the line listening, and that was always good. And it was fun. But I got this letter that normally I don't pull these things out, but I thought that's for those of you who listened to the other side of live and did not go and listen to the final Bear Crawling live show, I wanted to read this as you never know. You never know when you put stuff out to the universe what's going to come back. And I've always been surprised that one of my biggest fans was excuse me, was someone who could be my mother. She goes by the title Mother Superior, and it's a nickname she's had for a long time. It has nothing, actually, surprisingly enough, nothing to do with Catholic anything. But she kind of adopted me as the radio son of hers, and has helped out a lot in my life, and adopted my kids as her grandkids. And excuse me, I'm getting all Sinused up here.
Oh, just looked up as you should. We're talking about the last show of the
I'm off Klimt. Talk amongst yourselves. No. So anyway, I knew my target audience in my mind with that show was always, college age, late college age, mid-20s to 40s. It was that group of people with the questioning minds, the still the immature sense of humor. And I got this lady, I don't know how old she is, so I don't want to throw an age on her, but she is easily 20 years my senior. She could be my mother. Somebody I would never think is a target audience, and she's loved the show. And this is what she wrote after the final show. And I really do encourage everyone to go and listen to that, just because I thought it was one of my best, honestly. It was a ending on a high note, and I thought it went really well. But here's what Mother Superior wrote to me after listening. And she calls me Charles, as she should. She was, "Hey there, Charles. As you know, I always listen to your shows. Not live, but as they fit into my schedule. I know, it's tough being retired. But I have lived so far a very exciting and full life, and just when I think things are comfortable, here comes change. I used to hate that word, but I've grown to understand it now. Change is what really makes us grow and gives us the understanding of our relationships. Personal, work, social, etc. I have seen you change over the years that I have been a listener and seen you grow as a podcaster, father, and friend. I applaud your creativity and willingness to do what you feel is the right thing to do. I have absolute faith that this new step for you will be the right one. I've always said that I wish I had the foresight to know what I've always said that I wish I had the foresight to know what was down the road, because I would never have been so frightened of the unknown. I read this recently, and it reminds me of you. Forget mistakes. Forget failure. Forget everything except what you're going to do now. And do it. Know that I am listening, Mother Superior." And then she actually did write me back and say that was a quote for somebody. She did write me back and said who that quote was, but I don't have that in front of me. But I want to say thank you to Mother Superior, and I wanted to read that here because of that last part. But you never do. You never know who's listening, who's going to be supporting you. And when you go off in one direction thinking you're going to do one thing, you might end up doing something far greater and different than you ever imagined.
Right. Right. And one of those things is the new newsletter. That is House of the Bear newsletter, which encompasses everybody that's involved with you. And that includes myself, includes, Rock Girl, includes Nolan, the Noverton.
Yep.
And maybe a couple others soon.
And Sharon Watson by proxy for sure. I know she's busy, but she's always welcome to.
Did you ask her to write?
I got so busy with that last show and everything else on this last one. I mean, it's like when everything happens, it happens at once. So no, I did not put out to Miss Watson to ask her to guest, right? But I am going to put it out on the next one. Coming out now that we're past launch.
Trust Sharon Watson. Trust that Charles will contact you and ask you to write on
and don't think that you have to, Sharon. I know you're very busy with Tortuga Twins and everything else. I'm just making it open for you to do that. But yes, the newsletter went out. It hit very well. If you have not signed up yet, House of the Bear on Facebook.com, Facebook.com/House of the Bear. You can sign up there. On BCN Tosol, you have to put the little down arrow, but there's also a sign up tab there as well. And on houseofthebear.com, right under there's big banners that show Mordant and I, and it shows my other projects. And right underneath that, in the white section of the page, there is the sign up for the newsletter. It's once a month. It's not going to bombard you. And if you're expecting to get one and you did not, please check your spam filter. I've been instructed by my techie guys to say, please check your spam filter. Even if you don't want to keep on getting it, please unsubscribe. That would help us out. Just keep everything straight so we don't keep bombarding your spam filter. And if you did want it and it's in your spam, just mark it safe and we're good to go. And you, sir, did a wonderfully honest video, and that plays into trust. I think you should roll into that after you talk about your video, because I put out an idea. I did not give you direction. I did not say, well, talk about this topic, because I trusted you. I said, just talk about where you live. And you actually quite literally did that a little bit.
You basically told me to be real with it. Just talk about what's going on in your life.
Yes.
And I kind of do that with the Tortuga Twins fan club, but that's more in my journal there. That's more of a, hey, I'm traveling here and traveling there, and et cetera, et cetera. But for this one, since it was the first newsletter, I wanted to give something that was a little bit real. That wasn't so much a message saying, hey, chasing and catching your dreams, which is more of the Mordant world stuff. It was more me, and what's going on with my life and my involvement with you and House of the Bear. So that, I don't remember what I said, but I'm sure it was brilliant.
Is very funny because at first you're literally talking about your living space, and this is my room.
Oh, that's right.
And you have it framed beautifully with the computers and the TV, and it looks very professional. And then you really get into what's going on in your life and why and who you are as a person, and like, boom. See, I knew I could trust you because I know you have it in you, and you gave me exactly what I hoped for.
I got to tell the audience though, it's framed, it looks professional, everything's good, and then I swing the camera around and you see the messy room, the messy bed, and everything, and it's just like, this is how I'm living right now. So,
and you can only get that video, access that video through the newsletter. So if you'd like to see more of Mordant and his messy room, hit me up. You can hit me up two ways. You can go to the tabs like I told you, or House of the Bear, and subscribe to the newsletter. Or you can hit newsletter@bearcrawling.com, and we'll get you on the list, and we'll get you the current copy.
Right. So trust. As I was saying in the break from reality that we had a little while ago, for me there are three kinds of trust. There's trust others, you trust yourself, and you trust the process.
There's way more than that.
Well, yeah, but that's what I wrote down in my notes, so that's what we're going for. Now, trusting others, this does not mean to blindly fool yourself. Oh, I'll trust him. It'll be okay. Sometimes it means just trusting others to be exactly who they are. And I think I've told this story before, but I want to tell it again. I had a buddy of mine who was well known for being late to something or forgetful. And so much so that I needed him to pick me up at one time, and he had forgotten, and I wound up waiting a long time for him to show up. This next time, he's like, I'll pick you up, man. It's all good. I'm like, huh. And I'm thinking in my head, I can either go with this and go down the path that's probably going to happen, where I'm going to wind up being pissed off and having a bad experience, or I can trust him to be exactly who he is and go ahead and arrange other means of getting home. So I think my car was in the shop or something like that. Turns out he was late again. Actually, he forgot. And somebody got me home, and I think he called me hours later and go, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, man, it was all good. I wasn't mad at him. I wasn't mad at my situation because I had made sure that that my experience went well, that I was responsible for my experience, and I took care of it because I trusted him to be exactly who he was. And it panned out well. So you trust people to be that way. Now, if you're like, oh, everybody around me sucks, and I'm going to trust them to be that way, you're going to have that experience because you're stirring the quantum soup and you're creating that reality. Be ye careful. Here there be monsters. So you don't want to begin thinking that everybody is just worthless around you. If you really think that, A, you need to surround yourself with better people. B, and this should probably be A, you need to fix your attitude because that's a bad attitude to have. And you're probably addicted to that kind of reality if you're like, oh, this always happens to me. So you're kind of creating that around you. You don't want to do that. So trust others to be who they are. But if you find that you're surrounded by untrustworthy people, surround yourself with better people.
I had a whole different take on that one. 2 weeks ago we did Down with OPP, Other People's Perceptions, and I actually talked to Lala about this a little bit today. But I wrote it down after talking to you today. It popped into my head, and I made the note about trust others' perceptions when it's really the goal you're trying to achieve. Now, obviously, when stuff's negative, when people are telling you can't, that's when you got to shut the world out. Well, not always. I mean, we dealt with that on that show. Whatever I say about other people's opinions in the negative, just go listen to the OPP. It's 2 episodes back, and you'll be fine. Because I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about the positive. And how many great things have been affected in my life because I just accepted other people's perceptions of me in a good way. And one of the most current was when Lala started calling after she met you and you threw her at me and she wanted to start doing the podcasting radio thing. Every time she'd call me, she goes, oh, you're so busy. I don't want to bother you. I know you're so busy and you're doing all this great radio stuff. first 2 or 3 conversations, like, no, not really, I'm not. You're not bothering me. Please call me. It's fine. And finally, I just did what I've done in other parts of my life, going, you obviously see me as this, I don't know how else to say it, but it's kind of this big to do. In podcasting, you see me as somebody that will get you forward. You don't want to bother me. You see me as somebody that I want to be. So I'm just going to stop fighting you on it and just accept that's how you see me. And maybe I'll see myself that way. And now look, I get to do stuff that I want to do. I get to be the big deal that I want to be to a certain level. I'm trying not to sound egotistical, but I'm trying to be honest at the same time.
No, and what you're saying definitely makes sense. What I found, and yours is probably the nicer way of doing it. What I found that I do is say that, listen, you're not annoying me. In fact, the thing that is annoying me is that you keep bringing that up. So stop doing that. And I've cleared a space for you, and let's have this conversation. So cut it out.
Yeah, but every time you tell me that, I just laugh at you.
There you go. I got to say, Rathburn just threw out, here there be dragons, and I'm writing them. With a name like Rathburn, you got to be writing dragons.
But when I got married, my wife saw something.
First of all, dude, bad segue from dragons to married. No bueno.
Hey, you've not heard of riding the dragon? Never mind.
That was just a stupid joke. Just forget it.
Life's gonna kill you.
The jury will ignore that last statement.
All right.
All right. So they're talking about trusting other people's perceptions, though. That was just the most current one. When I met my wife, the things that she saw in me, I've told the story, so I'm going to tell a very short version. I used to laugh off the insults that I got from my family until my wife said, I love you. I would never say that about you, and it hurts me when they do. Seeing her perception of me as this great person, as this good man, as opposed to somebody to beat down. She saw me as somebody to lift up. When I accepted that, it helped me deal with things. When I met you and your perception of me as somebody who can teach you the road of podcasting, somebody who can handle this stuff. And there's even times when you surprise me with how you see me. And I've learned to accept these things when it's where I want to be. I do want to be that coach. I do want to be that mentor. I want to be the public speaker, the motivational, trust me, I'm a professional, early morning show, late night episode guy.
Sometimes I think it's just that you need somebody to believe in you. You need somebody to trust you because, like you said to me earlier, you got this. You got this. And we talked about that. And that actually gave me confidence. I'm like, yeah, he's right. I do. I may feel in my head, think I'm flopping and twitching. But whenever I hear the playback, I'm like, yeah, it's not that bad. It's kind of entertaining. I've got this. So I think we all just need somebody to believe in us, to trust us that we can do this, and then we begin to do that ourselves. Now, does it usually happen that way? Usually, no. Usually, you have to begin doing it yourself. You begin trusting yourself, begin believing in yourself, and then others see that magic and go, yeah, I believe in you too. Usually, that's how it works. But sometimes we get a little push, and that's always nice.
So how do we learn to trust ourselves?
You know what, baby? Making mistakes. Trial and error. As I was saying in the horrible Forbidden Zone break, I know you hate that noise. As you're creating a life for you, I'm going to repeat myself. It's in my notes. As you're creating a life for yourself to be successful, you'll need to trust yourself and your instincts. This is a process of learning. This is a process of learning. You are right, even when you are wrong, and right when you are wrong. What that means is even when you're making mistakes, you're in the right place because it's leveling up your life. Now, how do we learn to trust ourselves? You make the mistakes and you pick yourself up from it. I learned to trust myself in one way because when I was a chess match director in Florida, and it's a human combat chess in which we play a game of chess. People are the pieces, and it's all stage combat. So when a piece lands on another piece, they don't automatically take that square. They fight for it, and the winner gets it. So sometimes it's the piece landing on it gets it, but sometimes it's the defending piece. I had written out this whole, a scenario with a bunch of different fights and a storyline that went through it. And this one guy got 4 or 5 fights. Maybe it was 3 or 4. I think it was 4 or 5 fights. And everybody's like, he's getting all these fights. I don't like this. Da, 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 da. How come he's getting, how come he gets all the glory? And I'm like, you don't see what I see. You're going to have to trust me, and you're going to have to wait until the whole thing comes together, and then you'll see. Now, this was my first time directing. I had assistant directed before, and I had done fight choreographer before, but I'd never directed. And I had given this guy, and this guy could handle it. He was a very good fighter. and a very good performer as well. So the first day when we have the chess match happening, and this guy, everything tracks through, and the audience learns that this guy is kind of the character is the bad guy, and he keeps coming back, and even until he's thrown off the board, he's done 2 fights already, he's thrown off the board, and then he slides in on like a, I don't know what they're called, the slipwire or whatever, and knocks 2 of the other guys, Jeff and myself, the Tortugas, down, and jumps into that fight. Afterwards, I had people coming up and saying, "Oh, that was a great show. I see what you were doing." And that gave me self-confidence to trust myself. Because I got to tell you, if that thing had tanked, it'd have been all on me. Nobody to blame but me. And then the rest of the season, with this guy having all these fights and all my actors and all my fighters complaining about it. But instead, they turned around and said, "Wow, that was great." And that felt good. It felt good, and it definitely gave me a push to trust myself.
I've had a different path. I agree with everything you said. I can see that recently in myself of some of my adventures with Steve and Hugh, the From the Edge podcast, retired, and the other the Bear Calling Roadshow, respectively, there. But I would come up with ideas like you're talking about and say, "This is what we're going to do, bam, 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 bam." And both of them were like, "I don't think so." Well, no, you trust me. I got this. Because I knew we're playing to a small audience. It wouldn't matter if I failed. I tried. And then it worked. And then it worked again. But before, man, I'm talking to some of the people in the dark places. I think it took, for me, I won't go into all the dark stuff, blah, 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 but I know the turning point for me to quit going, "I'm such a loser, I'm less than, I don't deserve anything, and I can't." It took one man to separate me out from everybody else who's picking on me. And this was when I was 22 years old, and I was an EMT. And he pulled me aside and called me on my crap. All the stuff I'd built up for defenses and all that stuff, called me on the crap behavior that I had, but also gave me respect that I didn't deserve and trust that I didn't deserve. And when I broke that trust or broke something in that way, he would bring me back in and he would talk to me honestly. I mean, we had our fights, we had our issues. There was a lot of emotional stuff because I'd had almost zero unconditional love in my life at that point. And to have him treat me like he was a father, it was a father figure for me. I think sometimes it takes somebody else just giving us some trust, letting us break it, and showing us that it's fine, we can trust again. And to show you it's okay. It's almost like the stories you see where it's the adopted kid or the foster child, the orphan, whatever. They're angry at the world, and they bounce from house to house to house because they're not allowed to be angry at the world. Sometimes we need that person in our life to say, "No, it's okay to be messed up. I still trust you." I feel like I'm tiptoeing that ABC After School Special line a little bit, but that part of that is true. Part of that is life. And that's where I started learning. I didn't learn to trust myself till a couple years after that, and only in small doses. It's only been the last couple of years, and I'm 34 now. It's only been the last couple of years that I've learned to trust myself with the crazy stuff. Like, "Hey, Mordant, let's try this." Okay. But you trust me because I trust me. Would you say that? Was that a fair statement?
Yeah, that is a very fair statement. And I think that works both ways. You said the same thing with me on certain things. You're like, "I don't know about this, but I trust you." And that's a necessity. I mean, to have somebody believe in you. I mean, studies have shown that if you treat your kids and like they're the bad kid, and you tell them they're the bad kid, they're going to grow up to be the bad kid. And not always. It's not the end all be all, but statistically more often than not. The same thing if you treat your kid like the good kid and the smart kid, and teach them self-respect, they're going to grow up doing that, being like that, and treating other people that way. So in other words, if you show them a little faith in them, if you believe in them, if you show that you trust them, and again, not blindly, not foolishly, you don't want them to think, "Oh, well, Mom's a pushover, so of course she does, but that doesn't mean anything." No. If they respect you as a smart, intelligent human being who has raised them, and you show that, and therefore give your opinion value, and then you value them with your opinion, they're going to go, oh, I have value because this person I highly esteem trusts me. And they're going to be less likely to want to do the bad thing. Does that mean they'll never do it? No, that's part of growing up. I'm going to do this just to see if I can do it. I'm going to go ahead and do those bad things. And, oh, I didn't like that. And hopefully they come back. And hopefully, you know, they find their own path. And they will make their own decisions. But you can help them if you trust them. If you treat them like they're the good kid. If you tell them that you love them and show them that you believe in them, even if their teachers say that they're dumb, because they're not.
Right. Yeah. Nice throwback to the story the other week about the smartest kid in the dumb row. That was a great story. I want to talk about the chat room for just a second here. Mari is in the chat room, and she says, we feel like we need someone to give us permission to be authentic. Amanda actually says the only person who can give you that permission is yourself, and they're both right. I would have to say, I personally felt like, looking back is easy to do, but looking back, I think I needed somebody to give me permission to be real and to screw that up, to fail at it, and learn who I am, and that it's okay to have a safe environment. Like they say in the on TV and the couples counseling, this is a safe nest. There's no judging. But you really do need that. You need a chance to fail to figure out who you are. But at the same time, ultimately, I think Amanda's probably right that if you never give yourself permission to be authentic, it doesn't matter what other people say. But I think we need both.
All right, just to be clear, just so the audience is clear and so that I am clear, what do you think they mean by authentic? What do you mean by authentic and be real? We've all heard, keeping it real.
To be who you are and be strong. I don't know. It's
to be yourself.
To be who you really are, not who people want you to be.
Right.
You know, I've had people judge me. Oh, I made a joke about it, and it is a joke. And one of the things between Alex of 7th Row Center and myself is, we got two major things that we like to poke each other with. The Green Lantern movie and the music that I play on my live, or used to play on my live show. And he would come out, not in a negative way. He would come out because he enjoyed the show, but he would always pick on my music because that was a fun thing for him to do. And I talked about that in my last show, but the thing was, is I always smiled when he did it. It made me laugh. But that's one of the things about being authentic is I picked stuff that I liked. And in the early days of podcasting, if I played something and somebody made a negative comment, I would run and hide and, I can't show that part of myself. So I guess what I mean by being authentic is, no, it doesn't matter that you don't like it. He likes some of it. Don't get me wrong. He does like a lot of my stuff. We have a lot of things in common. But just because somebody pokes at you, somebody teases you, somebody thinks that you're a giant kid that needs to grow up, which I've gotten a lot in my life, if that's who you are, because I know there's more to me than just, that's it. Being authentic is knowing that there's more than you than this one thing that they see.
Right.
And being okay with showing all those sides is what we have to give ourselves permission for.
From the chat room, Rathburn said, authentic, not caring what others think of you because you know who you are and what you want. And I think that's a great statement, but I think that's just the effect of trusting your authenticness. I think that's belief in your own authenticness. I think that Charles has hit it on the head, in which being authentic is being real, being you. I'm reading a book right now. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, actually reading a book right now, not just listening to it. I believe it's called It, and it's written by a Page 6 writer who follows the celebrities around, and she talks about what it is that it takes to get, to celebrity status or being the best of the best. And she talks not just about as a celebrity, but I mean even in your dry cleaning business, or be the best in your your radio show, or be the best wherever else. She talks about that, and she says the one thing that you really need to keep is to be authentic, be yourself, because that's what's going to sell you. And now, if you're a grumpy, mess and depressed all the time, and if you're Eeyore all the time, nobody's going to want to hang out with that. You might want to develop you into the positive version of you. But she says that to be yourself, be authentic with who you are, because then you don't have to fake it. You can do it 24/7. Because then you're not like, oh, hey, look, I'm faking being this positive guy. No, I'm not. This is really who I am. And I try to share as much as I can on the show, that sometimes, a lot of times, I get pissy. and I don't necessarily show it here, but I certainly talk about it. And I talk about the effect it has on the people around me and the reality of that. Part of the reason I do that is so that when it does happen out in public, I don't have to fake it. I can be me, and people are like, "Yep, he talked about that. He's a jerk," and I don't, and they're not shocked. But it also doesn't give me an excuse to be that way. But I can be me, so that means I don't have to remember the lies. I can just be me and be the truth. So be authentic, be real, and it will carry you further in your career, whether it be as a performer on stage, dry cleaning business, or just a mom carting your kids around to school and take care of the house and all that. All very fine professions, by the way.
Now I think this is going to take us into the process. But one of the greatest compliments I ever received was actually from Rock Girl. Was 2 years ago, she met me in person for the first time at the bear calling meetup at the Renfest. And she'd only been involved in listening to the show for a few months before that. And she said afterwards, she said, the thing that struck me the most, I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact quote, but basically the compliment was, when she met me, it was truly what you see is what you get. There was no pretension of character on the show and then I'm a different person in real life. There was no, I looked after everybody. I did the same things that I did on the show. I read, as I would read the chat room and include people, I made sure in real life to include people and talk to everyone. And that meant a lot because it was a long road of processes to get me there. I think in my order, you said it's trusting others, trust yourself, and trust the process. I think for me, it was trusting others, and that whole accepting the good perceptions and getting rid of the bad ones. And then it was the processes before I learned to trust myself. What about you?
I think it all kind of hit all the same time. I've been on my road for self-actualization for about 10 years now. I probably started and really started it in 97 or 98 when I started doing energy work and changing from the inside out and all that kind of woo-woo stuff. So learning to be recognizing the process was one thing, but it's hard to say. I grew up trusting people, and I had some things happen to me where I now have trust issues. It's one of the things I deal with. So I can't say trusting people is my first thing. I think I learned to trust myself, either myself or the process first. Trusting the process because that's getting me there, then myself, and then trusting people. That's my final. And we'll know that I'm actually there when all my interpersonal relationships, not just here on the radio, but in real life, when all of my interpersonal relationships are fantastic, and they're well on their way to be that. But I recognize that a lot of the problems with them are me, and I'm working on me. And as I work on me, at the very least, it's changing my perception and belief in the world. So that's also creating the reality around me. It's also changing life and around me and the kind of people I attract to me. So, yeah, there was my long-winded answer on that. Well, that leads us into the next trust. We talked about trusting others, trusting yourself, and trust the process. Trust that as you're going through life and things are happening, that this is all part of the process, all part of growth, and that you're going to get something from this. Because if you do, then all you're going through has reason. If you do, all you're going through has a reason. I talked about last week how we were performing at the Bristol Renaissance Fair, and how the shows were kind of disjointed, and we were far removed from the audience because we were on one of the bigger stages, and not something that we're used to, not in our comfort zone. We can get used to it. We've gotten used to even a worse setup before, but we had shows that were not doing well, and part of our concern was, are we only accepted in places where people really, really know us? What we found out was, there's some stuff that needs to be tweaking in these shows that we've been doing for years. So what that situation shared with us was that it showed the weak link in our show. It showed what we needed to work on. So instead of going, we suck, or this really sucks, and I hate this is happening, instead trusting the process and going, okay, what can we gain from this? What do we need to learn from this? That's what we need. So trust your process. If you're going through a hard time, maybe there's something you need to learn from it. Maybe it's just that you haven't let it go of something, and the universe is trying to go, it's time to let go of that. It's time to not give that thing power over your mind or over yourself anymore. It could be, as I said before, in a few shows before, it could be just the universe is going, you keep getting flat tires because you've got bald tires. Change your tires. Please, before you hurt yourself and somebody else, please fix this. Otherwise, that's going to happen. That's why this is happening to you, so that you can take care of it before it gets to that point. Please do that. So that's trust the process for me.
I think you said a lot of what I would say. So the different thing I want to say then to add to the conversation is one size does not fit all. Okay, just because I developed a process with my wife of developing trust, of learning to move to the next level, doesn't mean I can apply that to our Mordant Mon. As each relationship, as each encounter, being at work, earlier on in the chat room, I'm not going to go find it, but the rough saying was from Lala Siegfried. Oh, there it is. It's right in front of me. I adjust who I am around others all the time, but I am never anything but genuine and authentic. It's just a matter of how much of the authentic I show. Work is a good example. I think that's true for everyone. I know in the early days of doing the other side of live, we used to talk to you about being Rafael Tortuga and the other names, and I think on my show you're like, look, I'm all of these people. They're just aspects of me, and that's easy to forget when one of those people or two of those quote unquote people are kind of characters. I'm getting off. That's not what I want to talk about. We have to set up processes with each individual person, not just this is work process, this is family process, this is whatever process. So I think having boundaries is a good thing, because just like the cliche goes about, to be a friend or to get a friend, you have to be a friend. Well, that's kind of hard to do sometimes. But the truth is, to get trust, you have to give trust. One of my major mistakes is funny. I was damaged by people throughout my entire life, had trust issues, but every time I found somebody who was slightly interested in something I wanted to do, I would ignore all the red flags of don't trust this person and end up crashing and burning. And it's weird. I would do that over and over and over again. So my problem was giving too much trust. What I had to learn was how to have boundaries without having walls. Of saying, well, Mordant, I think this was true for both of us. When we met, you were Rafael Tortuga, and I was a fan. Still am. That hadn't changed. But that was our relationship was, hey, fan, you stand over there. Yes, we'll take a picture. Thank you. Goodbye. And then we got to talking. And you said, okay, I'm going to let you pass the first door. You're going to pass the first door. And I'll let you in a little bit more. Let me see what you do with that little bit of trust. And even until early parts of this year, we'd have some head-butting moments of, what is wrong here? Why? And both of us have learned, like you referenced earlier in the show, both of us have learned to go, okay, I don't really think that's right. I something in me says, but since I can't articulate what that is, I'm going to trust you. And I've told other people, I trust you because not only have you trusted me, you've proven that you're not out here to harm me, that you have what you perceive to be my best interests at heart. Truly my best interest, not what you think's best for me. And I've done the same for you. So that was we've set up many processes along the way, but I think to start the process, you need to have that safety gate, floodgate, if you will. It's not a barrier. It's not to keep people out. It's just hey, we need to keep this one shut so we don't get flooded by the bad stuff.
Right, and it's a learned thing. It's a process in and of itself. I want to go back a little bit to where you said you had to set up boundaries because you didn't, you trusted somebody too much. I think that you actually didn't trust somebody enough, and the person you should have trusted was yourself, because you were screaming. Your instincts were screaming, "Don't do this again." You're doing this again. You're allowing either this person specifically multiple times or this situation multiple times. It's happening again. Trust me. And you're like, no, I need to trust this other person here because, they obviously, that's the right thing to do. We've seen movies and we've heard situations. I just watched Criminal Minds, so this is in my head, where person will willingly, even though their whole body is screaming, do not go in there and talk to the person who is talking nice to you, but it feels kind of weird. And people led into, dangerous situations Because even though their whole instinctual body or their lizard brain was going, yipe, 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 and telling them to get out of there, you need to learn to trust yourself. Because otherwise you're going to wander into a situation that you should have known better. Even if it wasn't in the forefront of your brain, your thinking brain, your lizard brain's going, this ain't right. Back off, live to feel bad about it another day. Live to make the apology to that person another day. If you're wrong.
It brings up, I don't have TV now. I have internet, so I have to wait for stuff. CBS, little shiny rabbit moment. CBS does not like to stream its stuff very much, so I have to wait till it comes on DVD. But I used to watch Criminal Minds all the time, and dude, I've watched too much of that stuff. You're talking about run away to apologize to that person. There's one particular episode of Criminal Minds where this dude out in the middle of nowhere, it's nighttime, and his father and teenage daughter are walking along, and this guy is literally backing up to them. And, of course, he turns out to be the killer and kidnaps him, whatever. Whatever the criminal is in the criminal mind, he was that guy. I said, that would never happen to me. And my wife's like, why? You think you're too good? It's like, no, because I would have punched him in the back of the head before he got to me because I watch too much TV. Because I see these shows, and some dude backs up to me in real life, you're going to get elbowed to the kidneys and kicked somewhere hard. Because I can say, oh, my bad, it's my assault, I'll do some time in jail. But,
not that we're advocating assaulting people
here
on the other side of life.
I trust my instincts enough to know I could do some time in jail in case I'm wrong.
The movie was The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and the guy that plays the serial killer or whatever at the very end, he told Daniel Craig, come on back in, come on, no, we'll talk about this. And you can see Daniel Craig kind of hesitating, and it's just like social norms demand that he go, oh, there's probably nothing wrong, I'll just go back in. And then later on when he's like strapped up, and the guy's like, you knew you shouldn't have come back into me, and yet you did because of these social mores, and look where you're at. And that made me go, oh, that's very telling. Anyways, I want to move beyond our movie and TV moment, and say there's two other words for that I've written down. There's two other words for trust. One is faith and one is belief. Now, faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. That's Hebrews 11:1 from the New American Standard Bible. And then, of course, faith is taking the first step, even if you don't see the whole staircase. And that's from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So those two things. But I want to talk about belief. I've been reading or listening to a book called The Power of Habits. And from what I'm listening to, this belief is that secret ingredient for habits to become permanent, because habits won't last very long under fire unless belief is thrown into the mix. The belief in the habit itself, belief in why you have formed and are using it, that habit, basically your why, and belief in yourself and your place in that habit or routine. They talked about how people who go to AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, and they'll begin doing all this other stuff, and they're going to the meetings, and they're doing the 12 steps, and everything's fine. But then everybody sticks with it until some difficulty happens, whether a spouse develops cancer, or somebody gets in a car wreck, something horrendous happens, and then many of them will slide back into the alcoholism unless there's some belief. And now AA uses a higher power. Also in the book, they talked about Tony Dungy and the Buccaneers, and how he went in and changed their habits. Instead of watching, okay, this guy goes here, and then you kind of follow him or follow the ball over here. You watch how they turn a certain way, and if they turn a certain way, you behave habitually. And his point was to do that was so that they would begin moving faster than everybody else, than the other team on the field. Now, everything was great. In fact, he started getting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which was not a good team, and my home team, but they kept going to the playoffs, but they would not make it to the Super Bowl. The problem was when things were, they became under fire, they started reverting back to their old habits. So they did not believe in this process, and it wasn't until he joined the Colts, and then I believe his son committed suicide. And the Colts that game were like, we're going to do this for the coach. And it might even been a playoff game or something. I'm not sure which. I have to listen to it again. But suddenly they believed, and they went on to win. So I think they went on to win the Super Bowl because they believed in his process. They had a reason to believe. So belief actually cements your habits. You know, it's something that's needed to make them stick more through the tough times.
That plays majorly into the law of attraction and to the secret. That's all about the visualization. And I was talking to my wife yesterday or the other day about, we're talking about the visualizations and those kind of things. And I said, you know, we've been applying a lot of it. That's why it's not strange or new to us, is that in practice we've been doing baby steps in those directions. And when my office was scheduled to close a couple of years ago, they came and they announced and said the office is closed in 3 months, 4 months, whatever it was, you'll all be out of a job. We're going to give you packages. We're sorry. You know, and at first, of course, there were people crying, all this negative energy, and it hit me a little hard, but not too hard. And I thought it was just because I'm a paramedic. I'm used to bad things happening. And I went out and I told my wife, because I think as I told her, I realized the hard part is actually telling her, because she was worried about what's to come and that kind of thing. Well, after I told her, we started talking, and then I have to, you know, reassure her. I just gave her the truth, and I realized this is why it wasn't hard for me. I said, I'll land on my feet. I always do. I always have, because I don't have this ego standard that I have to make X amount of money a year. I have to be this big IT guy. You know, I've talked about this on other shows. This will get back to trust. I'm getting there. But I've talked about on other shows, when I hear somebody on the radio and they've been out of work for 2 years, that's crap. You've been out of your $80,000 a year IT job for 2 years. But there are jobs out there that you could get. And that's my approach to life, is I'll do what I need to do to take care of my family. And the whole time, everybody's worrying, everybody's doing job hunts, everybody's kind of freaking out. It's like, I honestly didn't even think twice about it. I said, I don't care. I will land on my feet. I always do. And I that took the pressure off, that when they asked for people to volunteer to train the new company that was taking over our jobs, I said, sure, because that's what I do. I train people. I do the best I can. I lived up to my rule. And I trusted that it's my belief is what you're talking about. It's not so much trust, it's that belief is I knew without a shadow of a doubt that I was going to land on my feet. And sure enough, when they kept 3 people to stay on, I was in that group.
Right.
And I told her, I said, wow, what if I attracted that? What if that's really what I was doing, was out believing in that law of attraction, actually living that law of attraction? I believed, therefore there was no difference. You know, that's belief is a powerful thing.
I think that you're absolutely right. It is the law of attraction, and you've made that belief in that situation a habit. You know, I have a habit that annoys some of my friends, in that I believe that I get rockstar parking all the time, and I do. I'm like, yep, there it is again. And it's so much so that when I go up, I can tell, oh, I guess I'm supposed to be here. You know, sometimes if I don't get rockstar parking, like when I'm going, I'm gonna stop by Best Buy. I'm like, yeah, I'm not supposed to be here right now. But today there was a couple things I needed to do, and boom, right up front every time. It's like, yep, that's me. Now it manifests differently during the Christmas holidays. I don't necessarily get right up front, but I often get almost right away. So you have to trust the habits. You have to trust that the habits and routines you are setting up are going to work. Really believe in them. Or when push comes to shove, you will break those good habits you've spent your time and energy to set up. And that's what, you know, the belief really cements that in there. And so your belief in your situation, of course it's going to happen. And your experience is richer for it because you do believe it. You're not fretting and worrying, and you're taking care of business. You know, it's like, you know, trust God, but saddle your horse anyways, or tie up your horse anyways. You know, yeah, I know I'm gonna this summer this summer I had a bit of a break, and you know, I had my transmission that I had to take care of, so all the money that I'd saved up had gone the way of the dodo. So instead of whining and complaining and going, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do, I got a job. I got a job where I was working 30 hours a week plus all my Mordant World stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I smelled pretty doing it because I was doing lotion candles.
For fairy secrets.
That's what thanks for putting that in. Really appreciate it. Not that there's anything wrong with that or the company.
But as our time's starting to come up here in a second, I wanted to address something real quick in the chat room and tied into what you said before. But Rathburn says blood family is different. They are there and for the most part are a permanent fixture in your life. But friends, work, family of choice, spouses, siblings, etc., they can come and go is what I read her reference to be. You know, they're there, or she says they are there through your choices, and if you don't feel comfortable in those relationships, then you're not comfortable with yourself and your choices. I also want to say something about family, is what I've had to learn over many years now, and you, sir, Mordant, have helped out with that. What you said about, well, that friend and picking me up for the airport. With my family, to get past the anger and the true hatred that I had, because it's like, when you're getting salt in your wound constantly, all you can do is hate who's throwing the salt. That wasn't funny, Jabba. This is real.
He is truly evil.
But no, what I've had to do is trust that they are who they are. And after I got some healing, I had to learn what you taught me. And you did teach me that with other people. They are who they are. Why are you trying to see them as something different? If you trust them to be who they are, then you operate through life knowing that, and it's a much easier road. And I got to say, after living it for the last year or so, after I learned it about, well, I think maybe a year ago, you and I started having those talks. And it's right. If you learn to say, okay, I'm not, everybody knows I've had issues with my mother, but I don't have those anger issues anymore. And she doesn't honestly irritate me anymore or make me mad or hit those hot buttons because I trust with where she is. I know she's going to react out of this way. It doesn't matter anymore, and that helps greatly. Trust can change everything, and it means so many different things.
Yep. Now, even with this episode, we started a new process. Instead of going, okay, we wanted to make sure early in the week that we had a subject that we were going to talk about so that we could work on it all week. And this is a new process for us. So I had some growing pains with it and stuff, but I have to trust in it. Charles and I and everyone else involved with Tosol and Success Freaks have to believe in what we're doing, have faith in that we're doing the right thing and that we're the right people for the job, as well as trust in the process if we're going to get through the growing pains that go along with every new endeavor. And we are. So remember, there are 3 different ways of trust that I've written down. Trust others, trust yourself, and trust the process. And part of that trust is a vulnerability to yourself, to your fellow man, to reality, to God, to the divine, the universe, whatever. And trust the process that everything's going to be fine, everything's going to be groovy, and that you are growing into the right person. But you're definitely in the right place at the right time, no matter what. And even with those growing pains that you're dealing with, and even with the problems you're dealing with, they're all perfect in some way because they're teaching you something or they're helping somebody else with something. So trust yourself, and thank you for trusting us. And trusting us to get through the beginning of the show, because we are professionals, and we have a good time doing this no matter what.
Yes, we do.
So, Charles, you want to talk about, we're going to start pimping ourselves out. Talk about South by Southwest real quick.
No.
Okay. Next.
I got you. I'm just an ass. I'm not so yo. At South by Southwest, you can still vote. No, today is, I believe today is the last day of voting. I'm going to check the Facebook page, so I know it got put up there as the header. We are trying to get included into South by Southwest. If you're listening live now, and I'm going to confirm when the last date is, but if today's the last vote, please go to panelpicker.sxsw.com. I'm pulling it up now, the other side of live. It is panelpicker.sxsw.com/vote/2749. I do believe today's the last day, but you still have a number of hours to go vote. You can vote one time, but if you would, just go and vote that once. We believe that it's part of our journey, and if we don't go, we know we've learned things along the way, so it's not going to be on you. Don't feel bad. You're only a part of it, but we know you're supporting us, so go vote and take care of that. We'd love to have your support.
You can't help us out that way. There's also Amazon. Go.
Okay, so I get to pimp all of it. Yay! Right here. I'm right on Tosol, so it's perfect. There's a tab that says Support Us. And that is us. That is him and I together. Help us out on our journey. If we're giving you something that means something to you, if we've touched your life in a little bit of a way, please help us out. If you shop through our Amazon search box, that's right here on BCN Tosol on Facebook. Facebook.com/BCN Tosol. You just type in any of the books that we mentioned. You type in what you want. I think Rathburn says she's a Greek mama. So type in Greek mama and see what comes up on Amazon. It doesn't cost you a dime extra than what you would already spend. And if you don't shop Amazon, don't sweat it. We're not asking for you to change your habits. 28 days of shopping Amazon will change your habit.
Now, if you're listening to us via the podcast, we are live every Tuesday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time at mordantworld.com and of course /NAS. And of course, the NAS stands for No Agenda Stream. If you are listening to us live and you want to hear some older Tosols, go to theothersideoflive.com. You can go all the way back to number 1. And of course, we are available through iTunes. You can find Charles at houseofthebear.com. You can find me at mordantworld.com. I have a written blog that comes out through that, and you can also find my video blogs, my vlogs at mordantworld.tv. All right, well, this has been our Mordant Mon.
Trust me, I'm a bear.
Ciao, dream catchers. Boom, baby.